Hi girls and guys, Mark here from Super 100 MPH. Today's video is from Amaroo Park. It's Sunday, the 29th of March, and we're looking at round one of the AMSCAR series. Now, the AMSCAR series on this day was run over 3 heats, one of 5 laps, one of 10 laps, and one of 15 laps. And just to give you an idea of the guys behind the wheel, we had Frank Gardner's BMW M3s, and he had 3 of those running with Jim Richards, Tony Longhurst, and new boy Ludwig Fenu. We had Trevor Ashby, Terry Finnigan, and Tony Mulvihill in the VK Commodores, Andrew Medecky and Don Smith in the Ford Sierra Turbos. Peter Wilkinson was back driving his new Toyota Supra. Kevin Bartlett was in a Mitsubishi Starion Turbo. David Ratcliffe in a Toyota 11, and Bob Holden and Glenn Clark were in their Toyota Sprinters. Well, in between most of the races, Channel 7 had some pre-recorded material to run, and in the first break they did a review of the 1986 AMSCAR series, which was pretty good. And the little gem in this part was Peter McKay's little story on Ludwig Fenu coming into the team. Apparently he'd already been a mechanic and a test driver for Frank Gardner, and who said he'd known him for 3 years, and so it was a really nice piece on that. And then came Heat 2 of the Goodyear Car Owners Club Laser Vector Series, the Ford Lasers, and using Goodyear Vector tyres. That was an 8-lap race with Andrew Harris, Jamie McHugh, and Richard Gartner fronting the pack there. Then the next really good piece was Mike Raymond did his Big Week in Motorsport piece, which he did quite often, where he got us reports from around the world of what was going on at the time. And this one included round one of the World Touring Car Championship from Monza with Allan, Moffat and John Harvey in the Commodore. And of course they soldiered on and they finished 7th in that race. But as we know, the front running 6 cars were all found about 50 kilos underweight. And so Allan and John won the race, and I'm reliably told that they're still waiting for their cup. Moving right along, we had the Sports Sedan Trophy with Monza, Jaguar, Tirana and RX-7s whizzing around there with the likes of Tony Hubbard, Keith Carling, Mark Trenowith, Bob Tyndall, Brian Thompson and Bill Attard, all battling it out there. That's a really good race. Great sounds, those cars. Then we were straight into a report from Neil Crompton from the Brisbane Entertainment Centre on the Supercross Masters, where they had the bikes racing around a stadium situation there. Then straight to the Coca-Cola Bottlers Formula V Trophy with Bernie Hanley, Frank Kleinig, Ian Simpson and Greg McCombie battling it out there. Garry Wilkinson said Bernie Hanley's probably won more races than Jim Richards at Amaroo Park. There was just one other little short story, which was about the return of Group E production car racing and turning it into a formal series before we get to Heat 3 of Round 1 of the AMSCAR series. Now, before we go to the video, I'm going to hand you over to Tim, who went to Amaroo Park several times.
I've got my glasses on this time. Hi, everybody. Amaroo Park. I mean, my history of motor racing, my heart was there. Basically, it's the circuit for the Sydney buffs, really. For the ARDC ran Bathurst, as we all know, but the heart and soul of my motor racing experiences in that track, and of course Oran Park. But Amaroo was special because you could see everything. The cars would go up the hill, disappear, then there'd be that 30 seconds or whatever it is before they arrive out the bottom corner there, and you think, whoa, who got past who? And 1987, round 1, AMSCAR. A very special year because this meeting's got them all. It's got Tim's old favourite sports sedans that got me hooked up into this motorsport thing. I've said that before. But it has some wonderful privateers in the Group A touring car race, especially round 2 with Trevor Ashby. Mate, it's a very, very special race. There's a guy who's worked so hard in motorsport to, he's a privateer, not a lot of dollars, and it's a very, very special race for me to see a guy like Trevor get up there and do the number on all the guys. And there was a whole armada of BMWs. We've got Jim and Tony Longhurst, and we got Goofy, a really lovely guy, ex-mechanic, or was a mechanic. He was doing both, but behind the wheel in the third car. So it's a very, very special moment for me. And also the little Laser Vector series was running that day too. And look, you'll really enjoy that. Those guys get right into it. So sit back. Thanks, Mark, for all your details. He's good at all that. And enjoy an afternoon at Amaroo Park, 1987.
Indian summer day. They're going to swelter as they helter-skelter around here this afternoon, you can bet your life. And they're on the grid for the first heat of this James Hardie-Iplex AMSCAR series. And on pole position, Jim Richards in the BMW M3, alongside him in a Commodore Trevor Ashby car 39. Second row of the grid shared by Tony Longhurst in a BMW M3, alongside him Andrew Medicki in a Sierra Turbo. Then Ludwig Fenu in a BMW M3, Terry Finnigan in a Commodore, followed by Don Smith in a Sierra Turbo and Peter Williamson in the Toyota Supra. Then comes Tony Mulberhill in a Commodore and Kevin Bartlett in a Starion, David Ratcliffe in a Toyota Levin and Glenn Clark in a Sprinter, and good old reliable Bob Holden also on the grid in his Toyota Sprinter.
10 seconds away from the start, heat 1 of the 1987 AMSCAR Touring Car Series from Sydney's Amaroo Park. And away they go with Ashby getting a good start here on the outside. Richards goes with him and Tony Longhurst makes the split too and tries to shoulder out. Also a great start there by Finnigan, who came up into 4th spot as they go to the top of Skyline. And you'll find that Jimmy Richards has gone through to take over the lead. Longhurst drops into 2nd. Ashby under attack now from Terry Finnigan as they go through Dunlop Loop.
Terry Finnigan, the big mover on the first lap of this 5-lap screamer round Amaroo Park, came off 6th position on the grid, already up and running 4th, shouldered his way past Ludwig Fenu, and anxious to put the pressure on Trevor Ashby in front. But it's the two black BMs running 1-2 at the moment with Jim Richards and Tony Longhurst.
There's Ludwig Fenu, and he's got it around sideways just in front of Andrew Medicki. Medicki now in the Oxo Supercube. Sierra picks up a spot as they head down to the right-hander of the lake, and that will move him up into 5th. Finu now back into 6th spot and under a lot of pressure. There's Terry Finnigan going through, number 23, the CIG Gases Commodore entry. They head once again with a lap completed and 4 remaining.
Over the top, Jim Richards and Tony Longhurst. Ashby's not letting them get out of touch though. He can't afford to, not over 5 laps around here, just under 4 laps remaining.
A couple of times in yesterday's practice session, Jim Richards got all out of shape over the top of the hill, really pushing the M3 right to its limit. I think if anything at the moment, Tony Longhurst seems to just have his measure. His car a little tidier, Trevor Ashby lurking in 3rd position, about 1.5 car lengths behind. And the flyer off the grid in the opening lap and a half or so was Terry Finnigan in the silver and white Commodore. 2 black BMW M3s lead the pack.
There's Ashby going through, holding down 3rd spot. Race cam, of course, being carried today by Ludwig Fenu, the wrenchman who takes over the wheel, becomes the 3rd driver in the JPS BMW team outfit for 1987. Beautiful pics there from our race cam as we crest the top of Skyline and drop now into the Dunlop Loop.
Finu in 6th spot on the racetrack at the moment, but he's got another one of those Sierra Turbos right on his tail. Back up front though, Richards still highballing along with Tony Longhurst, not quite able to maintain the pressure on him. And the top 3 with Trevor Ashby in 3rd place have now broken clear of Terry Finnigan.
There's Ashby going through, Terry Finnigan putting a wheel up. Then the Oxo Supercube, Sierra driven by Andrew Medicki, down to the lake corner. The BMW's running 1-2 at this stage and starting to clear away just a little from Trevor Ashby. This is where the dice is going on that.
Andrew's running some new tyres on this car this weekend. For the first time he's using Avon slick tyres. They've been experimenting with Dunlops in the first 2 rounds of the Shell Ultra Australian Touring Car Championship.
Into Dunlop Loop again. Jim goes in, takes a 2nd bite, had a little taily that time. Tony closes it up. What an awesome force the BMW M3 promises to be in touring car racing throughout 1987. Controversial debut in Europe. And of course, the car actually made its competition debut in Australia, the opening round of the Shell Ultra Australian Touring Car Championship, with Richards sneaking pole for that. There's Ashby, 39. First up winner at Oran Park Raceway back in February. Looking good. Probably the pick of the privateers in New South Wales at the moment.
Terry Finnigan getting all out of shape as he comes through the stop corner. Madeki right on his tail.
They're on to their last lap now. This is where the scrap is. Heading up Skyline. And Finnigan finds the Oxo Supercube entry very close to him.
Ludwig looks all right out there on his own, doesn't he? But when he gets in the traffic, he has a bit of a handful.
A little daunting task here. It's probably the toughest circuit in Australia, certainly the shortest. Coming down the hill towards Honda Corner for the final time. Jimmy Richards, 1985 Australian Touring Car Champion.
Longhurst really forcing him to drive on the limit. Longhurst, of course, winner of this series here at Amaroo Park last season.
There's the scrap still continuing between Andrew Madeki, Terry Finnigan, and of course Ludwig Fenu. But the last corner is coming up. The checkered flag is at the ready, and heat one of the 87 AMSCAR will go to Jimmy Richards. Second spot goes to Tony Longhurst, and third to Trevor Ashby, and fourth across the line, Andrew Madeki. And Ludwig Fenu coming from nowhere to put a lot of pressure on Terry Finnigan in the sprint to the checkered flag. Well, he wasn't beaten here really in 1985, Jimmy Richards. Had an indifferent season here last year, very consistent, but was beaten out on a number of occasions. But he's come back stronger than ever here today. So, confirmation of placings here for the opener this afternoon on our telecast. Jimmy Richards takes heat number one. Tony Longhurst picks up second. Trevor Ashby is third, and we'll be back with more motor racing action live from Sydney's Amaroo Park. It didn't take long for Frank Gardner and his JPS boys to set the pace in yesterday's practice sessions. Jimmy Richards started off a little taily in the M3, but within 5 laps he was down into the 53-second bracket. Tony Longhurst was not that far behind his team leader, and close at hand, Leadfoot Ludwig Fenu in the number 12 Vimmer. Peter Wilkinson is back this weekend in the number 77 Toyota Supra, and he admitted he has some reservations about going back racing again after his Bathurst wreck.
It takes a while to settle down. I mean, I got a bit of a fright at Bathurst, and it's sort of, I'm still sort of worried about the brakes, whether the brakes work, whether the gearbox going to work. I'm just still at sea, but it'll all, within a few laps, I think I'll settle down and we'll get back on the job.
Trevor Ashby continues to improve in the Lansvale Smash Repairs Commodore. Second quick time yesterday, and only 0.2 of a second behind our Park Royal pole sitter, Jimmy Richards.
We've been developing the car now over the last 3 meetings, and it's proved to be going better and better as time has gone by. But it was a very good effort from Trevor Ashby, actually, who's second on the grid, not far behind us. And then we've got our other team cars, Tony Longhurst and Ludwig Fenu, third and fourth.
There's an old adage that a fast small car will always beat a fast big car on a small track.
Yes, I suppose the advantage is with the smaller car, it doesn't heat the tyres up as much as the bigger cars, and it probably is a lot easier to keep on a consistent pace throughout a race. So I think we maybe have got a little advantage over the Commodore.
So, AMSCAR star Jimmy Richards quite confident about his chances here today. And of course, we've seen him in action already. He's in no mood to settle for second best. It was really the same case last year for the JPS team. However, it was Tony Longhurst who didn't win a race, but won the series. AMSCAR 86 started with the Australian touring car round. Fury had pole in the Nissan Skyline, but Robbie Francevic in the Volvo 240 were the combo to beat. The others had their chances, and the traffic back in the pack was a little rugged as Longhurst made his burst. At the finish, though, the Yugoslav-born Kiwi and the Swedish Taxi were the flag 4 winners over Richards' fast-finishing 6:35 and No Baloney Tony. Round 2, and the sneers came from the privateers. Garry Wilmington had pole in the Jag and took heat 1 from Bondi in the Alpha and Jimmy Richards. Heat 2 saw Gary Rogers come home clear of the Jag, while Heat 3 went to Charlie O'Brien from Rogers in the Ignis Alpha, giving total points on the day to Colin Bond. Round 3, and Gentleman Jim was back to his frontline best. However, the rave reviews were to be reserved for John Bow in the Valvoline Volvo. The Tassie Tiger trailed Richards in the first race, but came on strong in the remaining heats to topple the VM pilots on their home domain. It was really a case of bow and how. Round 4, and Bow was back to tackle Richards and Glenn Seaton in the Nissan Skyline. Honours though were divided. Richards took heat 1, while Seaton ran them ragged in his first Group A win, taking heat 2. The decider was like icing on the Volvo for Bow. He disappeared quicker than a shadow cabinet minister with a car phone. Seaton picked up second, with Richards never in doubt for third. The only skirmish being this Commodore slide job involving the late Mike Berkman and Brian Callahan. Round 5 was the Better Brakes 300, an enduro tailor-made for Richards and the JPS clan. The Commodores fired their best shots early, but Team Black and Gold were just too bold. Lord Jim crossing clear of Longhurst and Colin Bond. So after a hectic 13-race series for the AMSCAR crown, judges gave the points decision to Tony Longhurst. He might not have won a race, but he was certainly the full-bore scorer. And don't bet he can't do the same here today in the AMSCAR 15-lap final.
Most aspiring young race drivers can only dream about getting a start with a big-time factory-supported race team. The reality is that opportunities are rare. A race driver is expected to pay his dues, and that might mean sleeping on a park bench, working 3 jobs simultaneously, and maybe even going to charm school. And naturally, if along the way he can attract the attention of a team manager by knocking off a world champion or two, then he's made it. That's how it usually happens. Usually, not always.
Meet Ludwig Fenu, Goofy to his friends. Today, 29-year-old German-born Goofy finds himself driving an M3 rocket ship for one of the slickest factory-linked touring car teams in Australia. How he got to drive one of these black beauties is one of motor racing's fairy tales. When JPS team trump Frank Gardner went looking for a new recruit to drive a third M3, he didn't have to cast his net very far. For the last 3 years, Ludwig has been the team's engine builder, the man responsible for keeping the high-tech motors singing sweetly for Jim Richards and Tony Longhurst. Gardner has played a key role in Goofy's transition from wielding spanners to driving race cars.
I think I just about got sick and tired of running engines in at 3 hours a time, and was pleased to see somebody with more physical attributes show up on the scene and relieve me of the job. And it just carried on from there.
Running in engines at Amaroo got closet racer Finauer all fired up for the real thing. He listened hard when Wiley Frank weighed in with some driving advice.
As you run the engine in, you go faster and faster, and obviously Frank, was a bit worried about his car, so he gave me a few tips and hints about how to drive and what to do, what not to do. And obviously I didn't do too bad, and so that's how it all started.
Now, after 5 race meetings and just off his P-plate, Goofy is understandably nervous. But Gardner reckons his rookie driving recruit isn't really so raw.
I suppose he's new to everybody else. He's not new to me. I've had him around me for about 3 years now, and he's done an awful lot of miles, and he fits in with what we try to achieve, or what we attempt to achieve anyway. He's a pretty sensible sort of a lad, and I think he's got the right sort of stuff that whatever racing drivers are supposed to be made of.
Gardner says there's no real pressure on the new boy. VM buddies Richards and Longhurst will take the fight to the opposition while Goofy learns the ropes. And the most envied factory driver in motorsport has his game plan all figured out for today's AMSCAR clashes.
I want to stay out of trouble first thing, and don't crash or damage the car. That's the main thing. And take it easy first off and see how we go.
With a race car that goes like the wind and Frank Gardner tutoring him on the finer points of race driving, an awestruck Goofy Finauer reckons he's found Disneyland.
This is Amaroo Park Raceway, and that's Jim Richards getting ready for today's second heat in round one of the James Hardie-Iplex AMSCAR series. Great day here at Amaroo, great day for this heat of the Iplex series. Jim Richards on pole position in the BMW M3, Trevor Ashby in second spot in the Commodore, then Tony Longhurst in the second of the BMW M3s. Andrew Medicke in a Sierra Turbo qualified fourth fastest, followed by yet another BMW with Ludwig Fenu at the wheel. Car 23, the next qualifier, Terry Finnigan in a Commodore. Next up, we've got car 34, Don Smith, another Sierra Turbo. Car 37, Tony Mulvihill in a Commodore. Peter Williamson back in the Toledo Supra, car 77 qualified ninth fastest, followed by Kevin Bartlett in car 42, then car 58, David Ratcliffe, and in car 41, Glenn Clark.
News from the first heat in the Hardie-Iplex series today is that Jim Richards has a new lap record of 53.78. Did that on his third lap, with now 10 seconds to go before the start of heat number 2. National flag raised, revs start to build, and it is Jim Richards who makes a very good jump in the M3. Ashby goes with him. Andrew Medicke, a nice start in the Oxo Motorsport Ford Sierra. Tony Longhurst dropping back just a little to fourth position. Fenua comes up in the third of the JPS cars to fifth, and he's doing battle with Terry Finnigan. And have a look at Tony Longhurst, elbows up and away he goes.
Loves a bit of that rough stuff, this young Tony. Ashby clips the dirt on the way out of the turn, but Richards at this stage has got a good lead over Trevor Ashby. He's holding second spot. Here comes Tony Longhurst down the outside. And he'll try and... Oh, Ludwig, my boy! You do not do that. Ludwig making a big entrance there for Frank Gardner and went straight back through the field. Tony Mulvihill, they all think their birthdays have arrived at once with the scramble down here. Well, look at this as they all go through that turn. Absolutely sideways. Poor old Ludwig. He's come out of that dead last.
Tony Longhurst, meantime, looking for a way past Trevor Ashby as they head up Vitchepave Hill for the second time. This is giving Jim Richards a clear run in front. That's what he wants. There's Frank. Looks a bit grim. And this is grim for Trevor Ashby because Longhurst's all over him like a rash.
Ashby will cling down there to the inside. Look at Tony. He wants this 1-2 routine all over again as they scored in the first heat today. But Ashby, 36-year-old, you couldn't actually call Trevor a rookie, but he's enjoying a marvellous season. Very consistent. Lansvale Smash Repairs, the sponsor.
He and Steve Reed first had a run here at Amaroo Park last year for the Better Breaks 300 in early August, and they did a very good job in the ex-Ken Matthews car. And now Tony Longhurst makes a desperate lunge on the outside in car number 4. Well, it's really working hard at the back of this Commodore at the moment, and all the time Terry Finnigan just getting a little bit closer.
Yeah, Finnigan is taking advantage of this dice to close up, but Longhurst is desperate for a way around here. He's got this car twitching all over the track.
Giant Killer Tony. Tell you what, he established that name here last year. I don't know what he has for breakfast. Plenty of fibre, obviously. Down to Honda Corner. Finnigan comes up a little closer. He may have him this time. He's got the run out of the turn. We'll see what the grunt of the V8 does.
He's got to do it the hard way, though, on the outside when they come down to the right-hander. It's not the place to be.
He's not going to get round.
Excuse me, says Trevor. And I tell you what, very cool-headed Trevor Ashby that time. Pinboards are out. Bring it home straight is probably on it. Seeing poor Ludwig jumped over all the curbs and ran off the racetrack there a little earlier.
I know what he'll be doing this week.
Yes, he'll be polishing all the cars.
Longhurst still anxious to go faster. Finnigan now on his back. Longhurst drifts wide. Finnigan pokes the nose up underneath, coming down to the corner.
Oh, Tony. I tell you what, he's going to get no respite from the man on the inside. He out of the way, fella, he says.
Nice work by Finnigan.
I recall Tony doing that to Dick Johnson and Peter Brock about this time last year.
Yeah, so he can't complain. Do unto others and all that.
Tony is really having a bit of strife here at the moment. All the time Jim is getting away. The two Commodores presenting a real problem. Terry Finnigan's found a lot of pace in the last couple of months.
Wait for this one though. Here it comes. Sorry.
Back.
Wasn't much in that, but that was a good pass. Timed that beautifully. So Tony goes back out after Trevor Ashby again. This is a great heat. Heat number 2, the 10-lapper of the Hardie-Iplex AMSCAR Touring Car Series. Ashby goes through. Finnigan waltzing around just a little that time over the top of Skyline, and Andrew McKay now starting to come back into it in the Oxo Supercube Sierra. Give it another couple of laps. I would think you probably will see McKay back up there running in about 4th or 5th, or Donny Smith. So we might take a look at the replay of the earlier incident with Ludwig Fenu. This is what it looked like from race cam in Ludwig's car. I have passed the field. Oh, there's Tony. And then when he jumped over the curb, they went every which way.
Short back and sides for Ludwig.
Well, just a moment, but he'll learn something from that.
Well, Ludwig left his business card on the back of Andrew Madecki's Ford Sierra, and he's pulled into the pit, so it's Don Smith in car number 34 that's up there in the second Oxo Motorsport entry. Jim Richards, second in last year's Better Brakes AMSCAR Series, the champion the year before, and the 85 Australian Touring Car champion, reigning endurance champion. This man is a maestro at the wheel of BMWs.
And he ain't playing second fiddle to no one today.
Nope.
Established a new lap record. The development path of these M3s is certainly on an upward trend at the moment. Just notice maybe it's the fact that Tony's having to work a little bit harder than Jim, but his car on occasions just appears to be a little more taily.
They're coming back across the line. 4 laps remain. Time to check out the Castrol GTX race splits. And we'll give you the gap from first. There it is, Jimmy Richards leading the race by 2.88 seconds to Trevor Ashby at 1.46, and that has closed up in the last half lap. So things looking good for Jimmy Richards. Could be a little tougher here for Trevor Ashby and Tony Longhurst, who is closing fast.
Trevor's done plenty of laps around this layout as a sports sedan driver and come up through motor racing, the school of hard knocks. He knows his way around, but I think top marks to these privateers in the Lansvale Smash Repairs car. They've got this thing mobile, and they're both closing up on Jim Richards. That's Tony Longhurst and Trevor Ashby. In fact, Richards has got a problem. He's out in car number 3. The new leader is Trevor Ashby in the Commodore. Tony Longhurst nibbling at the bumper bar.
Well, there's a turn up. I don't know what went wrong there with Richards' car. He just slowed very dramatically. The other two have swooped past him, but he's continuing on.
This should get Tony fairly excited. Wait for this, folks. Tries to feint one to pull back on the inside. Trevor closed the gate on him 3 laps in a row on that corner. Do you think Tony might have picked that up?
He's pretty shrewd. He's just holding the right amount of road without deliberately balking. He's making the Commodore wide enough for Tony to have a real headache on his hands.
Well, I guess you could get a little bit unsettled looking in your rearview mirror and seeing Longhurst almost in the boot of your car, but Ashby seems to be able to ignore that and just drive his own race up front.
Well, Tony's got the pace. It's just a case of getting through, albeit 2 or maybe 3/10. Frank Gardner, a worried man. 2 cars down, 1 to go.
The day started so well for Frank too.
And didn't Tony lose some ground that time coming up?
Well, he keeps persisting in that outside line coming out of the lake corner.
And it's gone off the boil too.
Yeah. Just wondering that time as he went past our commentary point whether there was a little misfire in the car.
It's just flat. It just sounded absolutely flat.
Oh, so does Trevor Ashby at the moment. He sounds pretty flat. He's just missed the apex by 20 feet.
It's the flat spots on his tyres, I think.
I thought he was rushing out to take a dive in the cold on the other side of the fence.
And here's Jimmy Richards in the pits. Some problem, Frank.
I think the race has run there.
First time we've seen these cars in pretty warm conditions. Calder was nigh on freezing cold. Simmons Plains wasn't a lot better. So perhaps we've unearthed something of an Achilles heel.
Just behind Trevor Ashby. You'll see it coming up shortly. And Mr. Tony finds himself under attack this time from Terry Finnigan.
Yeah.
And Don Smith is moving up on them too in the Oxo Supercube Sierra.
KB's right in behind him in the Mitsubishi Starion.
Last lap.
Here comes Finnigan.
He moves to second.
Tony's got a problem. The car doesn't sound well at all as it goes past the commentary point.
So this looks like being a shutout for the BMs in this second heat of the James Hardie-Iplex AMSCAR Series today at Amaroo Park.
Well, I was attempting to pick the daily double. I would have had the BMs 1, 2, 3 and Bone Crusher, and I've lost that all the way around.
Well, unlike their anorexic German counterparts last weekend, these cars have got no weight problems, they've got reliability problems, strange enough.
Trevor Ashby, Terry Finnigan, there he is, 23, the CIG gases, and just back behind him is Tony Longhurst.
Quite a scrap going on here for the minor placings.
Yes.
4 cars involved as Trevor Ashby comes up, the right-hander, car number 39, the Holden Commodore, and grabs the gold. Great drive. Second placing goes to Terry Finnigan. Third and only just to Tony Longhurst, Don Smith, and Kevin Bartlett in the Mitsubishi Starion.
Well, what a turn-up for the books here today at Amaroo Park. They started so well for the BMW team. Haven't worked out all that well. Recapping on the Castrol Oils 8 Oil scoreboard. Trevor Ashby, the race winner. Second spot to Terry Finnigan. And no baloney Tony takes third.
And this is Heat 2 of the Goodyear Vector Series at Amaroo Park, coming to you live.
Pole sitter Jamie McHugh in car number 3 is the man to watch. Race just getting underway and already spreading out into a single line procession going down to the lake for the first time.
McHugh won the opening round of this series here at Amaroo Park from Andrew Harris and Richard Gartner. McHugh and Gartner again with the top qualifiers for this round today. McHugh leading the race. There's Andrew Harris in the third spot. As they come past the start-finish line, Gartner sandwiched in between them. Car number 10. There's Harris. And nose to tail over the top of Bitchapave Hill. Oh, goodness me. Gartner has disappeared. Oh, no, there he is. He managed to get back in. Car 51 is Dennis Rogers. Shuffled back from his fourth spot off the starting grid.
This year's series, of course, backed by Goodyear. And is the Goodyear Vector Series for 87 Amaroo Park. And I'll tell you what, at this stage, McHugh looking pretty good. Coming down to the right-hander at the lake. There he is, car number 3. Pretty close to the wall as they come down to Wonderlick Turn.
The series this year missing Mark Scape and Peter Dane, the 2 guys that dominated the last couple of Ford Laser series, and the competition a lot tighter this year perhaps, although Jamie McHugh is the guy that's heading the charge, the guy that will be hard to beat this year.
Gardner finds himself with Harris very, very close at hand through the loop. Now coming down the back part of the course, the scrap certainly on for second. McHugh has bolted.
McHugh shows a lot of talent in a couple of categories. Was to have driven a Formula V this weekend. I think he was second in last year's Formula V Nationals, but is sticking with the laser today. Shows a lot of promise. He presents himself very well, Mike. He's a guy that wears all the good gear, the best helmet he can buy, the best driving suit. Looks like a Formula 1 driver.
If you look the part, it attracts attention, doesn't it?
It does.
And he's producing the goods as well. Double for Jamie McHugh. Doing it well. Looks good, does it well. Winner of the first round of the series and looking pretty good here, round 2 today. Gartner clinging onto second spot from Harris. And then Dennis Rogers. I wish he'd put his surname on the windscreen.
Yes, through me.
And tailed out behind that quartet, we've got Gavin James and in car 6, then John Clinton, car number 9.
John Clinton looks like a refugee from ZZ Top. He's the biggest fire risk going around if you've ever spotted him. A beard down to the navel.
There's McHugh, the race leader. Coming along the short straight to Wonderlick Corner. Scrap for second continues. Now this is a little more orderly.
That's Gavin James going through in 5th position. heading the second division, as it were, past the start-finish line, followed in turn by John Clinton, the bearded man. Not that you can see it from there, he's got it all tucked into his fireproof suit. He wouldn't want to get it singed.
Clinton was the man that last year had a couple of outings in a very expensive Jaguar Group A touring car. We didn't see too much of it, and he spent a lot of money on it. Now he's back to something probably a little easier on the pocket.
Car number 20 is Martin Segulan.
They give the Vectors a good working over, don't they, for 8 laps?
Yes, you wouldn't want to bowl them under the road car to go home with, Michael.
And Ian Foosty in car 38. But they're the midfield division. The leaders are getting away from them with something to spare through the lake corner. This is the second. There's the leading division. McHugh going through, followed by Gartner, Harris and Rogers. But that trio there, led by Gartner, really can't make any impression on McHugh. He bounded away from pole position and has really given them something to chase. He's like the bunny at the greyhounds. They're in touch, but they can't quite catch him.
2 3/4 laps remain, and this is perhaps the only change we might see. Andrew Harris and of course Richard Gartner, third for second. Feinting a move here, he'll try and tuck back on the inside as they come out of the corner. So Andrew Harris, and door handle to door handle here with Richard Gartner as they head down to the right-hander at the lake. There's no passing on the outside, but if he can swing back on the inside coming out of the corner, which he's attempting to do, and get the inside lie for the next turn. That's close. Not too much in that. Get the draft up the hill.
Dennis Rogers at the moment is the only man that can upset the placings from being a repeat of round 1. McHugh, Harris and Gartner, although Gartner looks like he might sneak second on this occasion if he can hold out Harris and Dennis Rogers. Rogers the only man that can upset the top 3, and if they were to finish 1, 2, 3 again, they'd have a pretty good stranglehold on the series. Oh, listen to those tyres scream. A real torture test round here.
Jamie McHugh's streeted them again, it looks like. These cars are not the fastest around Amaroo Park, but they always provide close races.
Getting set up again for an inside pass coming off here. Andrew Harris. Gartner making him go the long way around. There's no way he's going to allow him down on the inside. And he'll probably cover his options coming out of the corner. That's how close they are.
Rogers almost had a chance there, but just couldn't get power up quickly enough out of the corner.
McHugh leads them across the strike. 1 lap remain. Gartner in second, Andrew Harris and Dennis Rogers. That's the order, first to fourth in the Goodyear Vector Series. Round 2 here this afternoon at Sydney's Amaroo Park. They're on their final lap.
Peter McKay said, talented young driver Jamie McHugh. Had no pressure on him in this race today, but had there been some, I'm sure he still would have acquitted himself more than well, because he's a driver that's going places, taking things steadily. His development as a driver, both in open wheelers and now in this category, and gaining experience all the time, and a name to look out for over the next few seasons in Australian motorsport. Coming down to the lake corner for the last time. There are the cars running second, third, fourth.
Well, they're close this time. Still Richard Gartner here on the outside, and the race leader, though, Jamie McHugh, comes out of the last corner, heading down to pick up the checkered flag, and he wins it easily too. Second spot will go to Gartner, and third spot will go to Andrew Harris, I believe, on the inside, getting up very, very smartly there in the charge to the checker. So an interesting Goodyear Vector Series. Officials have apologised for jumping the start just a little with timing. However, Jamie McHugh has picked up the win. Second spot to Richard Gartner, third to Andrew Harris.
Well, Well, back here at Amaroo Park, all we need is Jamie McHugh, and we can have the presentation after the Goodyear Vector race today. And the top three in today's race, identical almost to the top three positions in the first round of the series. Jamie McHugh won that, in fact. Andrew Harris was second on that occasion, and Richard Gartner third. So Harris and Gartner swapping placings in today's race behind Jamie McHugh, who at this moment is sprinting up the pit lane, which is pretty hard work on a warm day like this with the driver's suit on. But he's going to make it, and Ian Lee is here from Goodyear to make the presentation, and it was a well-won trophy. He could have run almost all the way from Queensland and would have been here a little quicker, but Jamie McHugh has finally waltzed in, as he did, of course, with today's second round of the Goodyear Vector Series. He's all rugged up, he's got his cap on, he's got his breath back because he's had 15 seconds to do so. Step right in here. Got you at last.
Yeah.
Well, you had a pretty comfortable ride, even though the run from the pit lane wasn't so comfortable.
No, I got a good lead. That helped. If I could, I'd like to thank all my friends that helped me, Ian, Fenu and Garry, and Miami Smash Repairs for all their support.
I thought we might be seeing you, I was given to understand, in Formula V's here today as well. What happened to that plan?
The car didn't get finished in time.
Not finished in time, eh? Well, that's bad luck.
Yeah.
All right, good effort. Ian Lee has the presentation to make to you.
Well, good work, Jamie. Right, thank you very much.
Okay, that's round two of the Goodyear Vector Series here at Amaroo Park. 2 races, 2 wins to Jamie McHugh of Queensland. Well, last weekend, of course, was a big weekend for motorsport. Here's Mike Raymond.
The first hint of a thaw in the European winter can usually be detected in Italy by late March. With spring approaching, even the wellies go on special. It's time to get out and about, meet up with friends, attempt to beat the traffic snarls, or even pray for outside assistance. The Autodromo di Monza is located 30 kilometres outside Milan. It's been home to the Italian Grand Prix for decades, the fans turning out in their thousands in anticipation of a Ferrari or Alfa victory. For 1987, the tin top season was to start at Monza. The World Touring Car Championship was finally ready to roll with round number 1. European Touring Car Championship racing has traditionally opened at Monza with the 500k Enduro, virtually the sole property of Tom Walkinshaw and Wyn Percy. The Rover Drovers were on a hat-trick there last year, but the race will always be remembered for it marked the first appearance in the Euro Touros by Peter Brock and the Prince of the Privateers, Allan Grice. Showing a total lack of respect for Walkinshaw's £1 million team, Grice hammered his way through in an assortment of Turbo Sierras and Volvos, not forgetting Uncle Tom's red and white roadshow. The Aussies failed to see out the race, but it laid the foundations for their World Touring Car plans this year. Sadly, those plans failed to materialise. When the Monza roll call was taken last weekend, the Down Under representatives were Allan, Moffat and John Harvey in a Brock-built, Moffat-owned, ANZ-financed and Rothman-sponsored VL Commodore.
Well, it's a long road from Toorak to Monza in a week, but here we are looking fabulous half an hour before the 24th running of the Monza 500 kilometre. John Harvey's with me as co-driver. We've put over 600 kilometres of testing on the car, and with the limited amount of spares we brought over, we've done a fantastic job to keep everything running and up on 9th position on the grid.
The fact that we have no spare engine, and we've had to be very easy on the car during the warm-up days toward today's race. We're delighted. The car is on the pace. This morning in race trim, it appeared to be as fast as anybody else on the racetrack, so yeah, we're very happy.
The feel for the WTC opener looked something like this. Pole to England's Grouse, Rouse and Tassin in the Ford Sierra. For position 2, Emmanuel Pirro and Ratzenberger in the M3. Position 3, Marcus Osterreich and Megere. 4th posse, Riccardo Patrese and Cicotto in a factory M3, with Roberto Ravaglia and Ivan Capelli 5th fastest in another of the little BMs. Missing from the starting grid, though, were some big guns, including Tom Walkinshaw's 2 V8 Commodores. Tom refusing to subscribe $120,000 Yankee dollars in entry fees. And also missing the factory Eggenberger Ford Sierras, which were withdrawn after a scrutineering hassle. The start of the Enduro saw pole sitter Andy Rouse win the drag down the front straight towards the first chicane. If Andy had hoped to run away from the M3s, though, he was sadly mistaken. Moffat started the race in 9th posse. He gathered in 2 of the Bavarian lightweights in the opening circuit, but seemed content to sit in the Bavarian draft behind Pirro, Osterreich, Patrese and Revalia. Alpha's new Turbo 75 was well represented in the 41-car field. Luigi Racing had 3 entered, but as Colin Bond knows only too well, the Italian marque still lacks racing development. Maserati's new bi-turbo also made its Group A debut at Monza. The machine looks the goods and should be a competitive unit with some more Ks under its wheels. Rouse continued to set a solid pace at the head of the pack. The UK-based Sierra had stolen pole by 0.2 of a second, and by lap 14, Andy was moving away. A lap later, the Sierra was parked for the day after an engine exploded. Moffat was staying in touch with the leaders, but the BMW M3s were proving sensationally fast. The Aussie Challenge received its only setback when Moffat coasted into the pits. His Rothmans Commodore bone dry. Harvey stepped into the mount. It was during this time out, race leader Riccardo Patrese was able to put a lap on the Holden V8. The little Bimmers just ran on song from start to finish. Harvey was 7th, but it was obvious the 8 million Deutschmark spent on the BMW's debut had been money well spent. Or had it? The fans, rival team managers and other runners had been sceptical about the M3 all weekend. Their fuel consumption figures would have made great subject matter for an episode of Great Mysteries of the World, and the little buzzsaws were attacking the straights like top fuel dragsters. The closing stages of the race saw Cecotto clear of teammates Pirro and Osterreich, with Moffat and Harvey's Commodore still a strong 7th. The real dramas of Monza, though, were to start after the race. Technical officers weighed the first 6 M3 BMs and found they'd been given the Jenny Craig touch, each up to 50 kilograms underweight, and they were disqualified, giving the win to Moffat and Harvey. Round 2 of the series is set for Spain in 3 weeks, and who knows what other dramas might be uncovered. Stay tuned to 7. We'll let you know. Arama, Spain was the venue for the opening round of the World Sports Car Championship last Sunday, and some joy at last for Tom Walkinshaw's silky XJR8s. The rolling start saw the Eddie Cheever Basel Jag snatch the lead immediately, with the sister car of Jan Lammers and ex-Formula One star John Watson shutting out the Porsche of Derek Bell and Hans Stuck. Everything seemed to be running sweetly for Cheever until an oil pressure light came on and he wisely headed to the pits. Bell, meanwhile, stepped up the pressure. He finally took the lead, but the Porsche was never able to gain any distance over the Lammers-Watson Jaguar. Lammers took command after the round of pit stops, but Bell was always in his draft. The second Jag of Cheever and Basel charged back to 3rd and were closing on the Porsche. There was never more than 2 car lengths between the leaders, the Lammers-Watson Jag taking the 360-kilometre championship opener by only 1.6 seconds. It was a great start to the series by the Jaguars and a return to the winner's rostrum by John Watson, whose last sports car win was back in 1984. Meanwhile, in the Netherlands last weekend, the beach buggy set were out in record numbers for the 3rd Veronica Classic. The Yankee presence was strong in the buggy division, but Dutch champ Heike Reintz was the big mover. His run ended abruptly when he endoed in a big way after clipping a jump, leaving one Dutchie on a crutchie. True to the old adage, if it's urgent, send it Pantech, the Convoy boys had their own class. John DeRoy proving too strong in his DAF, beating home Ivor Goosens by only a touch. Uncle Sam finally got a look in when Spencer Lowe charged to the front in the 4-wheel class. There were any number of casualties during the final, and as the challengers dropped out one by one, Spencer Lowe went quicker. It was all good fun, though 'tis said they drew lots to see who'd wave the checker before the full tide came in.
That's the familiar sound of the Mazda RX-7 being driven by Keith Carling. On the grid now for the Toledo Tools Sports Sedan Series round number 2. The journey 10 laps, and some wild and wonderful cars will participate in this one. Let's take a look at the way they'll line up. There's Mark Trenauth in the big V12 Jag. He's alongside Bob Tyndall. Keith Carling has pole position of 50.48. Bill Attard alongside him with the Mazda RX-7. Trenauth in the Jag, car number 8. Third on the grid on the second row. Alongside him, Bob Tyndall. Position number 5, Russell Kramer in the Falcon. Position 6 is Brian Thompson in the booming big Chevy Monza. 7 is Tony Herbert in the Escort. 8, Tony Hubbard in the Falcon. 9, Craig Ramage in the Tirana. Position 10, Alan Linton Smith. Position 11, Clyde Lee in a Mini. And out of 12, Michael Caruso in the big Ford Falcon 5578.
Not too far off the start. And what a race we have with Keith Carling and Mark Trenauth. Start will be vital, 10 seconds away. Racing in the Toledo Tools Trophy race. Keith Carling gets off very smartly indeed on the inside. Trenauth got away smartly too. Looking back to Brian Thompson, Russell Kramer as they head up to the top of Skyline for the first time, where they'll drop into Dunlop Loop. Neck and neck into the turn. Trenauth gets the split, goes up and picks up second. Chevy Monza of Brian Thompson forcing its way through the pack end. Just look at the scrap for the lead. Trenauth with nowhere to go that time, almost out in the rubble. Pulls it back in tight, trying to lead this one inside a half a lap. Down to Honda corner. Trenauth picking the pace up, so too is Thompson back in the pack.
Alan Linton Smith getting a little out of shape in the Bel Air. Carling the leader from Trenauth in the big Jag in second position. The last time we saw him down in Tasmania, he had his hands full with a few problems. Behind him, Bob Tyndall in the Tirana. He's the leader in the series after one round. And look at Trenauth in the Jag.
Carling dives into Dunlop Loop. Trenauth in the Colorbond Jag sitting right in behind him. Some great racing here from the sports sedans today at Amaroo Park. Very tight circuit. Probably not the best circuit in Australia for the sporties, but I tell you what, they always put on a knockdown drag-out show. Carling, Mazda booming, just jumps out of the turn, down the Shell straight, towards the lake corner. Trenauth picking him up all the time under brakes. And Thompson coming through the field like a man possessed. You'll catch sight of him. He's up to about 4th at the moment. 5th. Now he's bidding for 4th. And here he comes with the big Chevy Monza. Watch the acceleration of this. He'll try and pull out of the draft and come up. Selects the click. Gets ready for it. Coming over the top and now dropping into Dunlop Loop. Kramer just in front of him. I tell you what, trying to win a sports sedan race from about position 6 or 8 on the grid here at Amaroo Park is very, very difficult indeed, and Kramer is not going to give him an opening. Here comes Thompson, squeezes past now, comes down to Honda corner. That was a good move. Kramer back to 5th, Thompson is 4th. Carling still the race leader from Mark Trenauth.
Through the corner goes Thompson, power to the ground now, the rear end of the car, a little twitchy, but now he straightens up, takes the right-hander onto the main straight and heads up Vitupade Hill. Pulling away from that group, but here are the leaders. Carling goes round, Mark Trenauth in the Jag in pursuit, but not able to bridge the gap at the moment. The lap's unfolding, still 8 to go here at Amaroo Park. And plenty of time yet for the Queenslander, Trenauth. The RX-7 of Carling really is firing well today and stretching out down toward the lake corner. Closing up under brakes is Trenauth. But the acceleration of the RX-7 is like greased lightning.
Trenauth appeared to have a few problems coming through the Mazda loop on that last lap. Didn't seem to quite have it together, but now he's regained some of his early form and is back in behind the Mazda. Carling was going very well in the first round of this series back here in February when He just kissed the fence with the left rear of the car. Whilst battling for the lead with Bob Tyndall, it was enough to just dislodge the rear suspension and then in fact turn the car into the wall and knock the front suspension around a little as well. That put him out of business, so he's got no points on the board. If he can get away with a win here, then those points will be welcomed most definitely by the Carling Holmes team.
The 14, Keith Carling in the Mazda RX-7 just snaps out of that turn. He goes through, still leading it. Sitting in behind him, Trenoweth, the collarbone entry. Then we'll have a look for the gap for third. Should be Bob Tyndall. No, it's not. Thompson's knocked him off. And here comes Big Bad Brian in the Kenworth Trucks Monza.
He's got plenty of clear track in front of him now as he tries to haul in the leading pair, Carling and Trenoweth, coming from 6th position on the grid.
Love the smell of a V8 in the afternoon. I tell you what, he's giving him plenty of stick round Amaroo Park, let me tell you.
Well, he's just blown Bob Tyndall off the track, and Tyndall, of course, was the opening round winner here at Amaroo. He's got to be content with the 4th spot and a long way back in 4th as this race unfolds. Deep-throated roar of the V8 heading down to the lake corner.
I tell you what, I still think maybe Thompson from there can still win this. As soon as he gets a little bit of breathing space, boy, doesn't this thing accelerate.
4 laps to go.
Might be able to do it in 4, but I tell you what, he's starting to pick up Mark Trenoweth very quickly indeed. There's the leader going through Carling. There's Trenoweth. 2 slowies. They'd be advised to move out of the way. Here it comes. The Monza-rated Monza out of Dunlop turn and now working its way down the back part of the course. Whew. Away he goes, and he's still closing. Got a bit of wide open racetrack now. But I say that, keeping in mind the leaders are probably 200 metres clear.
Yes, and at the head of the field, Carling's got a fair break now on Mark Trenoweth. He's opened it out to about 60 metres as they get back on to the start-finish straight here at Amaroo.
5.7 seconds. The gap from 1st to 3rd.
Here comes Thompson.
Sounds fantastic, doesn't it? Booming as it heads up Bitcher Page.
Yes, Bob's going to really have to work on it here because Thompson is closing the gap.
He might pick...
I don't think he's going to be able to trap Keith Carling.
No, but he may get Mark. Down to Honda corner again. Carling is already out of the turn. Mouth is already out. The gap's opened up just a little bit, so maybe 15 laps, might have been able to do it.
4.8 seconds now, 1st to 3rd. So Thompson closing up all along. Picked up 1.5 seconds on the last lap.
Here he comes. I tell you what, he's made a race of this one. The fans are all standing up taking a look at this race.
Are there enough laps left? Just over 2 laps remaining.
He's still coming on. They work onto the back straight. There's Mark Trenoweth going through, and Tomo. The Monza wound up, heading downhill to the left-hander at Honda corner. Carling's got this one well and truly in the bag. To the lake corner. Run down the short straight to Wonderlick turn. Last lap board coming out now.
Well, Thompson's got one big lap to haul in Trenoweth, and it looks like he's about to do that. Can he get by and snatch 2nd place away from the Queenslander?
Boy, hasn't he picked him up in a hurry. They're on the final lap. This is where the dice is.
Keith Carling well clear, leading the race in his Mazda RX-7. Looks certain to take the checkered flag, but there's a big question mark over 2nd place. These are the two fighting it out. Mark Trenoweth in the Jag and Brian Thompson in the Chevy Monza.
Mark was really leading the gate open that time.
There's the scrap, whether or not Tomo could pull one going down to the right-hander. He's trying to set him up, switch back to the inside, give it a football. Has he done it? I think he's pocketed him. Tight, boys, tight, and he has. Watch out for the wall. Okay, Trenoweth gets out of there, squeezes out. Carling goes across the line. He'll get there. And the scrap still goes on. Here comes Thompson back on the inside, and he'll take second. What a drive. Great finish. Some real racing in the sports sedans here today at Amaroo Park.
If these blokes were jockeys, they'd all be on their way to the steward's room.
Love it. The Toledo Tools Sports Sedan Trophy race at Amaroo Park. Race winner Keith Carling in a Mazda. Second to Brian Tomo in the Chevy Monza. Third to Mark Trenoweth in the Jaguar. More soon.
I'm Allan Butcher. At City Ford, we've built ourselves quite a reputation for saying yes more often. In fact, we say yes to new Ford buyers almost twice as often as any other Ford dealer. It's true. We sell almost twice as many new Fords as any other dealer in Australia. So if you're thinking about a sporty new Ford Laser or a medium-sized Ford Telstar, you tell us what you want, and we'll do our darndest to say yes. Here's something really special. In fact, 4 ways special. It's the 4-wheel drive Ford Spectron. We've made a special purchase of these 4-wheel drives to sell at 30% below recommended retail price. They have the powerful 2-litre engine, power steering, 5-speed transmission, 8-seat capacity, and they're selling at nearly $9,000 below recommended retail price. We're open all weekend at all 3 locations: Grant Street, Sydney, Piedmont Bridge Road, Camperdown, and Botany Road, Mascot.
Yes, yes, yes. City Boys is yes more often.
Everything comes to he who waits, and it certainly came to Keith Carling in a big way this afternoon here at Amaroo Park in the second round of the Toledo Tools Sports Sedan Series. Fantastic drive. Congratulations.
Thanks, Gary. Thanks very much. I'd really like to thank the boys from Toddy Tyres. They gave me some Dunlop tyres that certainly did the job for us today.
Pace was a bit hot out there, wasn't it?
Very hot, yes. I saw Mark in my mirrors constantly, and the little red Monza there.
Do things move that fast up in Dubbo?
Not really, no. That's why I come down here.
Well, you had no trouble at all. You had pole position. Most of the action was behind you, and I guess really that's the safe way to play it, isn't it?
Yes, that's right, yeah. No, there's credit to my crew, Barry and Ian and Jeff Olroyd for their work. They're the ones that got me here today. It was really good.
On behalf of Toledo Tools, congratulations. Fine victory. And where did you finish in the first round?
In second overall in last year's round, yeah.
Yeah, in the previous round here?
No, I didn't finish.
You didn't finish at all, so you really needed the points out of today's win.
Yep.
Okay, good luck in the rest of the series.
All right,
I think we better talk to Brian Thompson and Mark Trenoweth while we're at it, because they did stage one hell of a battle. Mark Trenoweth is stepping in here, but in fact it was Brian Thompson who finished in second place. You two boys had quite a tussle there on the final lap.
Mm-hmm. Yes, we did, Garry. You had an extra good time. I was a bit worried about seeing Brian up there, and he's just a bit too good for me at that last corner.
Well, I did say, Brian, that if you blokes were jockeys, they'd have you in the steward's room right now.
Well, we had to make up a start line disadvantage. We don't have any first gear today, and that gives us a problem off the start, and it gives us a problem out of Winfield Corner, so we've got to make the best of it elsewhere.
Well, you came off, I think, 6th position on the starting grid, so you gave a few other people's problems in getting by them.
Yes, well, we were 10th on the first lap, and then we moved up point by point, and I was wishing it was a 15-lap race, so we had to make a dash, one to go.
Well, it was a good effort to get up to second place. And Mark, you also received a big award in the off-season from Jag for your performances.
Yes, that's right, Garry. I was fortunate enough to be awarded the International Jaguar Driver of the Year, so that gave me a great thrill.
Yeah, oh, that was fantastic. Apart from a piece of paper, though, what does it mean to you?
Oh, well, there's not a lot yet, but it does mean a lot for the future. It'll do my career no harm at all. While I'm here, I'd just like to give Colorbond a special thanks for financing me and bringing me here for this weekend as well.
Mark Trenoweth finished third today, but look out for him next time round. Brian Thompson was second, but neither of them could get by Keith Carling, winner of today's round of the Toledo Tools Sports Sedan Series here at Amaroo Park. Well, Amaroo Park hasn't been the only centre of motorsport attractions over this weekend. They had some brilliant Supercross up in Brisbane, and we dispatched Neil Crompton up there to have a look at it.
When I mention terms like rooster tail, hole shot, berm and monowheel, you probably think I've gone crazy. But I'm actually in the middle of the Brisbane Entertainment Centre here in Queensland for the FM 104 Supercross Masters. Behind me, Australia's and indeed America's best Supercross riders are battling it out for the big bucks on the dirt. And this is armchair motocross.
In the 5-year history of the Supercross Masters, only one Aussie has ever made the grade. That was Jeff Leask back in '82. And since then, there's been the familiar case of the Cup going back to America. The Yanks were back in form and ready to serve a repeat dose when they lined up with our lads for the qualifying heats, but the Australian force included some pretty forceful riders. Queenslander David Armstrong, now with Kawasaki, set off an early warning to everyone when he cleaned up. He was backed up quickly by former junior champion Robert Scott from New South Wales with another Kawasaki victory in Heat 2. And he downed the Kiwi connection in Darren Henderson very early. Heat 3 was an all-Aussie affair, and the top-ranked Glenn Bell launched the YZ into battle with style and nailed the evening's first Yamaha victory. And the professor of local motocross, Stephen Gall, grabbed the set of bars for the first time since last August and promptly won his heat. None of the Americans got through for a win in the early heats, and only Flash Gordon Ward from California and reigning champ Jojo Keller made it to the final from the US contingent. The four Aussies that made up the six-rider final included Gall, Bell, Armstrong, Dean Burt and Stephen Dinsdale. When the gate dropped, 16-year-old Victorian sensation Dean Burt bolted. He led Jimmy Deacon and David Armstrong, both of Queensland, under the bridge for the first time. Jojo Keller and countryman Gordon Ward both made ordinary starts and were behind the 8-ball from the beginning. Burt had the crowd screaming. The rookie had stunned everyone and seemed to be getting quicker and quicker. After the field settled down, Ward and Gall began a battle for 5th and 6th, and Jojo really began to make up some ground. By half-race distance, Glenn Bell had closed the gap on Burt. The Yamaha rider was able to make ground but couldn't find a way through. Time and again he prodded from behind but couldn't unsettle the leader. This allowed David Armstrong to close in, and that was everything the Queensland mob had hoped for. Bell started to get desperate. He was being pressured by Armstrong and would lose a spot if he didn't move. But out of the Mazda triple jumps, he blew it and threw the Yamaha away. This left the Kawasaki lads at the head of the field, but behind, another battle was brewing. Gall and Keller were locking horns and became so enthusiastic for each other, they simultaneously took a bite of Queensland. The boys were naturally tired, so it was a struggle to pick up the bikes. In fact, Gall considered sitting it out. Jojo didn't appreciate it. After the heavyweight diversion, Dean Burt grabbed the win, and that followed up from his 125cc class win. Not a bad act.
I was pretty tired and I didn't think I had enough stamina to make the final, but I did, luckily.
Placings were Dean Burt first on the Kawasaki, second went to Queenslander David Armstrong, and third was Gordon Ward.
I like to change my cars, but I never change my oil. Well, I change my oil, but not my brand of oil, because I want real protection. You know what I mean? Valvoline.
Valvoline XLD new generation motor oil with secret additive chemalloy for protection against corrosion, oxidation, gum formation.
Protection for all my cars. You know what I mean?
Valvoline, the symbol of protection since 1866.
This is Amaroo Park Motorsport on the 7 Network, and more open wheeler fun now with the Formula Vs. Round 2, the Coca-Cola Bottlers Formula Ford V Series here, Formula Ford, the Formula V Series here at Amaroo Park. This is the way the grid shapes up. Pole position, car number 6, David Cutts in a Spectre, and sharing the front row, guess who? Bernie Henley in car number 1, the Renmax. Second row of the grid, Frank Kleinig shares that with Ken Taylor. Fifth fastest qualifier was Greg McCombie, just ahead of Norm Johnson. On the next row, Jim Rouston and Ian Simpson, a pair of Queenslanders there. Then Stephen David and David Smith, and rounding out the top 12, Dennis Gillespie and Jeff Stone.
Racing in the Coca-Cola Bottlers Formula V event, and car number 1, Bernie Henley, getting away very, very quickly indeed. Just look at the fight now for positions as they head up to Nissan Skyline for the first time and drop into Dunlop Loop. 3 wide as they move into the turn.
We check the top 12 off the grid. There are 13 other starters just to round out this usual packed field of Formula Vs.
Greg McCombie going very wide there in car number 8, fighting his way through the pack. The old master, Bernie Henley, in the Toledo Tools entry, getting the upper hand. So you can't teach old dog's new tricks. Bernie's case.
He knows all.
He knows them all. And he will exit the lake corner. There he is, number 1, Toledo Tools entry. coming through the turn, and a good lineup of cars here today for this event.
What a start by Ian Simpson from Queensland in car number 10. Came off 8th position on the grid and is up running 3rd.
A 1 minute penalty board has gone out to one of the drivers.
Interesting, see if we can find out who that is, but there's car number 10. Maybe it was Ian Simpson, because he has made a lightning start and is now threatening the top 2. Frank Kleinig has slipped through into the lead from Henley, but it won't be the last time that positions change.
There wouldn't be a race here at Amaroo Park that hasn't had a Burnley Hanley in the lead.
He is about the winningest driver. I think he's probably won more races here than Jim Richards.
And thus far is probably having a little more success than his fellow countryman Ludwig Fenu, who had some problems earlier.
Car 47, where are you?
Sergio Lavamakoko. Somebody's punched him in the nose and he's lost number 47 off the front.
The scrap continues, heading up to the top of the hill. And once again, Bernie Hanley has been caught. He got caught in the last half lap, but he's managed to jump out of the slipstream and fight his way back into the lead. Number 10, of course, Ian Simpson from Queensland.
And poor old Frank Kleinig, in one fell swoop, has been shuffled back to 3rd. That, though, is the Formula B racing.
The 1 minute penalty board went to Malcolm Barnes, so Malcolm started from position number 22.
Oh, well, he needed a minute start.
That's it. You've heard about this television 3 states. Once again, Bernie Hanley comes out of the lake corner.
They're closing up behind this leading trio, though. At the moment, car 24, Ken Taylor, after a slow start, he got shuffled back from 4th position on the grid, but is coming again. And behind him in car 8, Greg McCombie, driving a Concept.
To the top of the hill, and Bernie finds himself under siege.
Not only under siege, but out of the lead. Ian Simpson takes over.
I'm sure he just gives Ian an opportunity to lead for a lap or so, unsettle himself, and then Bernie swamps him again, usually on the run down to the lake. They're closing up, though, as Garry mentioned. Ian Simpson, Bernie Hanley. They are very close indeed.
Peter McKay, you've had a few drives. Have you ever pedalled one of these things?
No, I haven't, Garry. It's probably one of the few cars going around these days I haven't put my tail into, but...
The trouble is, if you put your tail in the size of it, you put your legs out the front. The scrap still continues. Car number 10 going back to take over the lead. Ian Simpson. Number 2 comes swarming back, Frank Kleinig again, up on the inside this time. Bernie sitting in very close. They're going to go 3 wide, maybe even 4 wide, as they go up Bitcher Pave to the top of Nissan Skyline. Great scrap for the lead in this race. And here comes Kleinig, and takes the lead. That was close. Simpson now drops into 2nd, and Bernie, after looking so strong early, is back to 4th, but don't write him off yet.
The man that came off pole, David Cutts in the Spectre, didn't survive too long, got shuffled right out of it at the start, and I see his car's pulled off on the infield, so his race is run for the day. But disappointment for him, having qualified fastest and now being out of the running.
To Frank Kleinig will lead. Here comes Bernie fighting back down on the inside. Simpson still holds 2nd spot.
Bernie's been known to circle the field and come from last to win these races.
He has.
So 4th spot should be no trouble for him. Although he's got 3 very talented drivers up ahead of him, Frank Kleinig, Ian Simpson and Greg McCombie.
McCombie's making life difficult for him. They go to the top of Nissan Skyline, and here they come again.
Simpson back in front.
Don't blink, folks. Kleinig into 2nd. Bernie back to 4th.
The script is that Bernie is 2nd on the last lap, entering the last lap, and then he pips him on the post.
He usually does. The trouble is here, he has to be careful that Combi doesn't get, or Simpson get away too far. It's fine having a jostle here, but to try and do it from 4th, he's got to be in 2nd when they get to the last lap.
Simpson's the guy, I think, a couple of seasons ago came down to Amaroo from Queensland with his brother Allan and really got amongst the locals. So he has a bit of form on the board, and he's showing it today.
Once again, they come out of Toledo corner. Frank Kleine coming back to challenge yet again for the lead on the inside as they run up to the top of Nissan Skyline. That's what you call close motor racing.
5 in a bunch and number 6 right on their tail.
Kleine back in front. Bernie back to second. And Ian Simpson goes back to third. And if he gets off the train there, he'll be back to fifth. Bernie swinging to the outside, trying to put one on Frank Kleine. Kleine coming down the hill.
4 laps to go. Bernie Henley might be making his run a bit early here.
Could well be. Frank Kleine in car number 2, looking very sharp, down to the right-hander at the lake.
Kleine and Henley have had some titanic tussles here in Formula B racing at Amaroo Park over the last several seasons. And there they are again, running 1-2. Greg McCombie in car number 8 holding down third place.
Of course, whoever wins today will be putting first points on the board, although they did have a round at the last meeting. That round was officially declared a no race after a bit of a bingle over on Honda Corner.
Oh, talk about bingles. This is just sensational stuff.
McCombie's in the lead, believe it or not.
Bernie 1 out and 1 back, so he's heading into the right spot with the 1 lap board to come shortly.
There's no lap money on this, is there?
You would think that Coke could put up 1,000 a lap to lead it.
Kleinig's had the flick from third spot, and Ian Simpson now holds down third behind McCombie and Henley. Simpson, Kleinig.
2 1/4 laps remaining. Bernie getting set. Likes to be in second with a lap to go. 2 to go now as they swing across the line, and here comes Bernie Henley on the outside. Comby will take the lead, but he might be engulfed here at the top of the hill. He'll drop into the right-hander.
Simpson on his hammer.
Simpson locks up a brake as they go in there. I'm not quite sure whether Bernie wanted to lead this into the last lap. It's going to be very hard for him.
The problem with V racing is you've got to plan so far ahead.
And work to it and stay with it.
Yes, there's an awful lot can happen there between start and finish in these races.
It's a bit of a case of after you on the last lap or entering the last lap.
Oh, I think the last lap board is about to go out for these guys when they come around this time. Through the lake corner, Henley in front.
See if Big Bernie can hang on to this one. He'll lead it from Ian Simpson. 1 lap to go, you'll see the sign. There it's out now. They cross the start-finishing line, and Bernie will now try to cover his tracks.
Any one of 6 cars can still win this race, believe it or not.
And here comes the man that's going to try and give him a big shot. Ian Simpson up on the outside, and he will take over the lead as they drop into Dunlop Loop from the final time. Now Bernie will have to keep it tight. McCombie starting to come up into the picture as well. Hanley's only chance is to try and snooker the race leader on the inside halfway down the back part of the course. However, Ian Simpson, let me tell you, knows Amaroo Park very well indeed these days. Here they come. Down to Honda Corner. Can Bernie tuck it down on the inside?
Simpson's got him covered there.
He's got him covered here.
Look out for McCombie. Oh, he's going to get the lot of them.
He's going to try. Will he carry on? Here comes McCombie down on the inside.
Oh, Simpson squeezed out into the wall.
And here
out.
comes Bernie. Bernie's coming on stronger than the Lone Ranger. And also Frank Kleine. Last corner comes up. Can you believe it? Yes, we can. The old veteran's done it again. Across the line, Bernie Henley.
Oh, this is great stuff, isn't it? Unbelievable.
He gives better results than Bone Crusher and some of the other ones. I can always bet on Bernie getting up and in a Coca-Cola bottler's V race here at Amaroo Park. What a sensational drive.
You'll get the Iron Cross for that.
Let's take a look at the placings. Bernie Henley has done it. Good on you, Bernie. Second spot has gone to Frank Kleine, and third to Greg McCombie. We'll be back in a moment.
Oh, there's no doubt about it. Formula V's never failed to entertain here at Amaroo Park, and it would not be Amaroo Park if I were not standing here talking to Bernie Henley.
Thank you very much, Garry.
You've done it again, you old-timer.
Well, yes, it's really, well, it didn't look like it at the beginning, didn't it?
Well, it didn't look like it at the finish either. There was a different leader on each of the last 4 laps.
Well, I mean, yes, that's right. May I just say to all of my fans out there, thank you for watching and all your viewers. And I'd like to thank my sponsors very much. They're a terrific firm. They've got first-class tools. And I'd like to thank them very much and I'm glad to be part of their team.
Bernie, we've been standing up here for so many seasons now trying to get you a sponsor. I'm just happy to see that it has happened at last, and of course we're also happy that Coca-Cola sponsored the series, and Frank Ferranda is here from Coke to make the presentation to you.
Thank you, Garry. On behalf of Coca-Cola, I'd like to congratulate him on winning the Formula V Series Round 2. Congratulations, Bernie.
Thank you very much, Frank, and thank you very much to Coca-Cola. Yeah.
Bernie Henley, winner of today's round of the Coca-Cola series. It wouldn't do to go away without talking to Frank Kleinig. Of course, Frank has given Bernie so many great races here around Amaroo Park. I thought you were out of it there on the last couple of laps, and you've come from nowhere to run second again.
Well, I keep bouncing back, don't I?
Yeah, I know, but you've got to bounce a little higher to get over this bloke.
Yeah, I think we'll have to do our homework a little bit better for next time. The motor that's in the car has been in there for 18 months, and it just got very tired.
Better luck next time. And Greg McCombie, good effort to finish third, and poor old Ian Simpson, he was right in the fight there until the late corner the last time.
That was a very, very interesting bit of driving down there. I didn't know whether we were all going to have enough road to drive on. As it turns out, I did. Bernie had a better bit of road, and Frank had a better bit of road again, so I missed out in the duck shuffle. I thought I was going to win the race.
Ton of entertainment, thanks a lot.
Yeah, thanks,
Greg
Gary.
McCombie third, Frank Kleinig second, and of course Bernie Henley first in the Coca-Cola Bottlers Formula V race here at Amaroo Park. Of course, we've got the James Hardie-Iplex AMSCAR Series third heat coming up very shortly, but before that, we've got more motorsport action. This time, once again, it's Neil Crompton.
These cars are rapidly becoming the drivers' favourites in the local racing scene. They're showroom stockers, and they represent a basic return to exciting racing cars. The growing numbers in the ranks of the production car drivers has in turn forced the recognition of this type of racing. There's now a national and state production car championship, something long overdue.
Been a long time coming. Group B's had a lot of trouble being recognised, but I think now it's finally made its mark and it's being recognised for what it is.
The rounds are being spread around the nation, and our leading pilots of these shopping mobiles are already gathering points towards the final Australian title race at a venue to be nominated.
I think it's a great thing for the sport. It's the beauty of Group B is you can go motor racing on a reasonably small budget, which you know, unlike our Group A cousins, you can't do that.
Racing this type of car doesn't require a bank heist to finance a program. Apart from the original outlay for the vehicle, the car only requires a roll cage, fire extinguisher, a change of tyres and judicious blueprinting of the engine.
You've got reasonable freedoms. You've got freedom on the shocks and struts are free. You're not allowed to alter the anchoring points though. You've got freedom on exhaust after entry to the first muffler or catalytic converters on these new unleaded ones. Your engines, you've got a few freedoms with, not a lot. You can blueprint. That's about it. You've got to run to manufacturer specifications.
Like their touring car cousins, the Proddies are divided into two classes. The over 2.5 litres like the Commodores, Mazdas and Starions, and under 2.5 litres with the giant-killing Suzuki GDIs and other little ankle biters.
Got pretty well all production motor cars. Cams actually give us a list of homologated cars, but there's not too many they miss out on. I think you'll even find the little Mighty Boy, Suzuki Mighty Boy is even included in it. So you can race with any sort of motor vehicle that you wish.
So it's fair to say the future for production car racing is pretty bright in Australia.
Mate, it's looking very good at the moment. I can only see us going in leaps and bounds from here.
And welcome back to Sydney's Amaroo Park Raceway. Cars are on the track for the first round of the AMSCAR Touring Car Series, the 15-lap final this afternoon. They're just on their warm-up lap at the moment. And of course, it's been a day of sensations. Jimmy Richards taking the first heat over 5 laps. And of course, Trevor Ashby coming back to win the second heat over 10. The 15-lap final will certainly suit the BMW M3s this afternoon. Let's hope Frank Gardner and the Team BMW boys have a few of the bugs ironed out of the M3, so they'll run trouble 3 to the finish of the 15-lapper.
Provisional point standings going into this third and final heat for the day. Trevor Ashby with a third in the opening heat and then a victory in the second is on 22 points. Tony Longhurst with a second and third placed finishes is on 18 points. Richards with a victory and a non-finish is on 12 points, level pegging in third spot with Terry Finnigan in the Commodore, who had a fourth place in the opening heat and a second in the previous heat. So it all comes down to this 15-lap decider to determine who will be the overall winner in this opening round of the Iplex AMSCAR series here at Amaroo Park.
Cars moving into position. Let's check the grid, how they'll line up for the 15-lap final. Pole position, Jim Richards, car 3, the JPS BMW from 239, Trevor Ashby in the Commodore. 3, car 4, Tony Longhurst in the BMW M3. Position 4, car 35, Andrew Madecki in the Sierra Turbo. 5, car number 12, Ludwig Fenu in the BMW from 623, Terry Finnigan. Position 7, car number 34, Don Smith in the Sierra Turbo. From 837, Tony Mulvihill in the Commodore. 977, Peter Wilkinson back in the Toyota Supra. 10, car number 42, Kevin Bartlett in the Starion Turbo. From 1158, David Ratcliffe in the Toyota Levin. From 12, car 41, Glenn Clark in the Toyota Sprinter.
And rounding out the field, also in a Toyota Sprinter, Bob Holden.
There's Trevor Ashby.
How many race starts has Kevin Bartlett had here today?
Oh, I think apart from the Formula V race, he's been in just about everything. I think he had 4 in a row at one stage. Car number 12 is Ludwig Fenu. They've got 30 seconds to go prior to the start. Fenu, of course, scarpered off the racetrack in Heat 2. He dived down on the inside over the concrete curb, launched himself into the tail of Andrew Madecki. There's Madecki in the Oxo Supercube Sierra Turbo. 10 seconds to go for the final today of the AMSCAR Touring Car Series. Flag is up. And they're racing, getting away smartly off the line. Jimmy Richards this time, but Ashby grabs another gear, goes with him. Andrew Madecki gets through smartly. Ashby, I think, has missed a gear and has been gobbled up here completely by Terry Finnigan, who tries to get Tony Longhurst, but I think that horse is bolted. Richards will now go through to the lead. Second is Andrew Madecki, then Longhurst followed by car number 23, Terry Finnigan, then Ashby back and forth.
Yes, he missed the change from first to second, did Trevor Ashby, as he left the line, and that's dropped him back into 5th position. Just the advantage the BMW pilots needed.
Well, he might have made a blue, but that had nothing to do with the performance of Andrew Madecki. He really proved the joker in the pack in this third and final heat this afternoon and got away brilliantly and holds down second spot behind Jim Richards.
And trouble for Terry Finnigan, who's gone off the boil. I think may even have a flat tyre, so he goes to the infield. Gentleman Jim leads it. Here's Andrew Madecki looking good in the Oxo Supercube Sierra Turbo. And Tony Longhurst back in third. That moves Ashby up to 4th. Ludwig Fenu is now up to 5th. And Madecki looking good at this stage. He tails Jimmy Richards to the top of Nissan Skyline.
Team manager for the Oxo Motorsport team, Don Smith, has recently taken a trip to the UK and spent some time with Andy Rouse, the man who originally developed these Ford Sierra Cosworth turbos for racing. The news is they'll have a new engine management system coming for the car, probably sometime just after Wanneroo. Should be around about 3 weeks away from now. They believe that'll give them a more even power distribution, a better power band. Despite conflicting reports, they tell us they are going to get their extra 110 horsepower in the evolutionary processes with these cars later in the year. Some people say that's not going to happen. Some people reckon it will. If it does, they're going to be a pretty potent motor car.
Well, talking about potent motor cars, I don't know what Andrew Madecki's found since the previous heat, but he's found something because he's really hounding Jim Richards at the moment.
The word is that the JPS BMWs have problems in that heat number 2 with engine management system, possibly related to the temperature. There's certainly no problem with the way the cars are running at the moment. The damage to Goofy's car largely superficial.
Coming down the back straight, Tony Longhurst, car 4. Some problems today for young Tony. However,
problems today for Terry Finnigan too, as you mentioned earlier. Mike went off on the infield with what appeared to be a deflated tyre and has now left the racetrack altogether, is back in the pits and out of the running.
This is a fine showing from Andrew in the Ford. I might just get the clock operating next lap to see just how quickly they are circulating. Give us an idea whether Jim's a little slow or Andrew's a little quicker than he was.
Trevor Ashby has never recovered from missing a gear there at the start, and there's Sevens race cam in the BMW M3 of Ludwig Fenu.
And Ludwig coming right up on the tail here of the Lansville Smash Repairs Commodore. See what Goofy can do this time. Don Smith in the second of the Sierras moves in right behind them. It was an opportunity to follow Ashby and also Ludwig down the back part of the course, coming down to the right-hand kink. Now the downhill run to Honda Corner.
Well, we saw earlier that Ashby was very, very cool under intense pressure from Tony Longhurst. I think he'd be able to handle Ludwig pretty well. In fact, pulling away here, coming down into the late corner.
And Ludwig Smith, yeah.
Someone missed a gear then.
Well, the time that Jim set on that last lap was a 53.98. They're not mucking about.
Fenu continues behind Trevor Ashby. And Don Smith probably a couple of car lengths back behind him.
I noticed a couple of laps ago when we had the shot from race cam up that Ludwig runs very, very wide in his approach run to the brow of the hill up at Vitchepay. We might have a look at that next time round as we take race cam through Mazda and in behind Trevor Ashby's car, but the car gets very, very light over the top, and you notice that he almost every time goes into the right-hander at Dunlop with the car really sliding. And by comparison to Tony and Jim, they take a much tighter line up there.
Well, we'll follow that this time round. See how close Ashby goes to the wall there to come back onto the start finishing straight, and we'll follow them up the hill.
Now, he enters the corner early, runs out much wider here. See how he's on the left of the road? Now has an awkward sort of an entry into the right-hander at Dunlop, gets up on the ripple strip and then runs wide. So he's actually tracking the car further left and right than perhaps he needs to. And the best comparison there is his fellow competitors. If you look at Jim and Tony, they make a dead straight run over the top of the hill.
I mean, that's like people that sit at the table and eat with their elbows out, isn't it?
Something like that.
Okay, Ashby continues to hold him out down the back of the course, and they are in third and fourth positions on the racetrack. Up front, there's no problem for Jimmy Richards. Continues now to lead the race and lead it well from Andrew Medicki.
One guy who I'm sure knows a little bit about these BMW M3s is Peter McKay. Last week came out and spent some laps in the M3. I'm sure that would have been a rather exciting experience.
A most impressive motor car, Neil. The horsepower of the little M3 was a surprise to me, and it revs like all get out to 8,400 revs, and it is not a little four-cylinder wimp.
No, it's not. And the fellow driving this is not a wimp at all. That's Tony Longhurst, and he's getting on even terms now with Andrew Medecki.
Yeah, certainly getting right onto Medecki's tail, going through the lake corner once more. Jim Richards, meantime, is pulling away and has a pretty commanding, if not a winning lead at this stage of the race. And I think you'll find Longhurst going to be pretty anxious to try and get by here if he's going to make ground on his teammate Richards up front. But Medicki, the real surprise packet in this third and final heat today.
I think it's a great thing. Medecki, obviously, along with Don Smith, have come along today to try and set their cars up. They'll do all the racing they can to develop the Sierras. Now you're sitting at home hoping that they'll get faster. And by the time the Touring Car Championship, the Shell Ultra National round comes here on the 21st of June, I think you'd expect... Oops! Some smoke that time. Expect to see this combination very, very much on the pace. So Longhurst now making the big moves down on the inside. Medecki closes the gate on him. Going to make him work hard for this one. Shake out the window by Andrew just to let him know. Let's do it all nice and cleanly now.
The race claims another casualty as car 77, the Supra of Peter Williamson, leaves the track and heads into the pits with almost zero power.
A brand new Supra too for Peter Willow this weekend.
The other one destroyed at Bathurst, the James Hardie 1000 practice. It's all go.
Yes, Andrew's getting it sideways. In fact, he's gone off the boil completely.
Left rear tyre looks a little suspect to me.
Yeah, it's only flat on one side though.
It's on the bottom. That's bad luck for Andrew Madecki, who was looking very good indeed in the Oxo Supercube Ford Sierra.
Yeah, a great shame. Andrew paid a marvellous compliment to Don Smith. He said, and we were asking the question, how come his car is a little quicker than Don's? And Andrew said, because Don gives me all the good new gear.
That's excellent. Well, they've come along with 2 cars for the Touring Car Series. And, of course, we look forward to seeing them in action at our next round. In the meantime, the Hardie-Iplex AMSCAR Series, the final today. Richards leads, Longhurst second, Ashby is third. We'll be back in a moment.
Two and a half laps remaining in this final for the James Hardie-Iplex AMSCAR Series. That's Trevor Ashby holding down 3rd place on the racetrack at the present time, being pursued by Ludwig Fenu in the BMW M3.
Trevor Ashby, of course, 36 years of age, from Sydney. No rookie, 4th in the 86 AMSCAR. Amaroo Super Sedan Series, I should say. Qualified 16th in the 86 James Hardie. And rookie, of course, in the 87 AMSCAR Series. And Nissan know-how stat. On the track at the moment is Tony Mulvihill, running 6th on the road. In the brightest colour on the brightest car in the field.
I used to have a pair of socks that colour once.
You're wearing them, Wilco.
Of course, Tony Mulvihill, who operates Mulvihill Security Services. And Tony loves his motorsport. A very, very competent driver. Nice guy with it. And like so many of the privateers who feel the punch against the factory teams in 87 because of the high dollars, it's great to see him at least running in the front half of the field and supporting all the races he can in New South Wales.
Andrew Madecki, a fresh tyre and back out on the track.
So Tony Mulvihill continues in 6th spot. Jimmy Richards is our race leader. Here he is, down on the inside.
Just slipping by Glenn Clark in the Toyota Sprinter. Here comes Longhurst as well. Also gives the Toyota the go-by.
They're on their last lap. So 1-2 coming up for Team JPS BMW.
And Frank Gardner has gone to great pains this week to disassociate himself with any parts coming out of Bavaria. He built the cars in Sydney, he says.
Well, fitting result for Frank Gardner. He's turned up with 3 cars. They're all going to finish here this afternoon. 1st and 2nd. And then a 4th place to Ludwig Fenu. Jimmy Richards, the man who was unbeaten here in 1985, won 7 out of 10 in the Australian Touring Car Championship for Team JPS BMW. Looking good as he comes down to the late corner, and a late charge here from Tony Longhurst on the inside. And Longhurst goes through in the last corner. Last turn coming up now, and it's going to be a 1-2 for the BMW team. Longhurst coming out of the bend, going across the line, and will lead Jimmy Richards to the flag. No team orders here today.
A 2-1.
A 2-1. And 3rd across the line is in fact going to be Trevor Ashby in car number 39, the Lansvale Smash Repairs Commodore. Well, coming from nowhere, Tony Longhurst. Let's check the placings on the Castrol scoreboard. Tony Longhurst, the race winner. Jimmy Richards runs 2nd, and Trevor Ashby, a very determined 3rd. So, Neil Crompton, Tony Longhurst, as I said before, no team orders. You go for it.
It's a little unusual. I think it looked to me as though Jim went for the coast and collect 2 corners from home, and Tony said, well, I'll have a pound of this, and decided to get stuck into it. What did you think, Pete?
I thought Jim probably slowed down to form finish, but nobody told Tony.
Got walloped on the outside.
An interesting day for the JPS BMW team. They've probably learned something out of this exercise and unearthed, I guess, a shortcoming with these cars that Frank can now work on and develop out of. So Tony Longhurst, car number 4, coming up to the line, victorious in the third and final heat.
Let's take a look at what's to come on our Motorsport Diary. Seven's motorsport coverage continues next weekend when we zero in on the picturesque Lakeside Raceway Brisbane for round 3 of the Shell Ultra Australian Touring Car Championship. Farmer Fury currently leads the point standings over 21-year-old Nissan teammate Glenn Sedan. But don't discount Allan Grace. He was a certainty beaten at Symonds Plains. During our telecast, we'll also talk with Wayne Gardner and review the opening round of the World Motorcycle Championships from Suzuka, Japan. Alan Moffat will give us the lowdown on the Pay-As-You-Race World Touring Car Series, and we'll meet the Oval Track King who plans trading his wing for a fling at our annual Mountain Marathon. The NASCAR boys will provide us with some more bone-jarring action, and there's a few surprises as well. And on April 26th, the Touring Car Trail stops at Perth's Wanneroo Park for round 4 of the Shell Ultra Nationals. Just a sample of what's to come in a packed Autosports April here on 7, so stick around.
Well, Tony Longhurst taking the checkered flag in the final of the 3 heats today for the James Hardie-Iplex AMSCAR series from Jimmy Richards. A little bit of a turn-up for the books there on the final lap, and Trevor Ashby filling 3rd place. But overall, the winner on the day over the 3 heats will be, in fact, Trevor Ashby on the points, because he had a third, a first and a 3rd place finish, and that was good enough to give him the points. Bruce Robinson, the divisional manager for Iplex for James Hardie Industries, is here to make the presentation. All we've got to do is find Trevor Ashby. Where are you? Congratulations.
Thank you.
Big effort. Come around here, come around here. We'll get Bruce on that side. Well done.
Thank you.
Thank you, Terry. Congratulations, Trevor. A great race. It's been a great introduction too for Hardie-Iplex. It's its first race sponsorship, and we hope there'll be more.
Thank you.
All the very best indeed.
Thank you.
Well, that was a pretty big effort. 2 third-place finishes and a win sandwiched in the middle there. And it started off to be a pretty good season for you in '87, hasn't it?
It has really, yes. We've put a bit of time in practice in the car. It's getting a little bit tired, but the development side of the handling, we've got a lot of time in there, and we're trying hard.
Well, the BMW boys reckon they've still got some development up their sleeve, and I think that sounds a big warning, doesn't it, to the rest of you guys?
It does really, yes. Yes, but we've all got a lot of work to do yet.
That car, you had a win, I think, first up at Oran Park. What are the plans from here on? You're going to contest everything you can lay your hands on?
We'd like to, but we haven't got the backing. And Lansvale Smash is owned by Steve Reed and myself, and we just haven't got the backing to continue on competitively.
It is a big worry.
Oh, it is, yeah.
So what, you basically confined to the meetings you can get to from Sydney, like Oran Park, Amaroo?
Yeah, we can only run the local meetings at this stage, yes.
Well, I don't know, a few more results like you've been posting here today, and somebody might come along with a checkbook and put a sign on the side of the car, and you'll really be able to get serious about it.
We've got the time to do it, but like I said, we haven't got the backing. If someone does that, we've got the time.
Well, let's hope so. Congratulations on a fine effort to take out the points in today's 3-round series.
Thanks again. While I'm here, I would just like to thank Hardie-Iplex for the backing of the series. I'd like to thank all the guys in the pit crew that have helped me for the last 7 years of my racing. Same guys right through. My company, as I said, is Lansvale Smash. Westline have been with me again this year. A couple of small backers there that I appreciate the help.
Hang in there, pal.
Thank you.
Trevor Ashby, the overall winner, but the winner of the final race today was Tony Longhurst. Now, Tony Longhurst, no respecter of age or rank. What are you doing knocking off Jim on the last lap? What happened there?
I think Jim might have let me through. My car, the rear tyre went off a little bit. I was having a bit of trouble out there. But we thought that if I came first, second and third that I would have got the series today, so we're just a bit confused there.
You needed to have a pocket calculator with you, pal.
I think we might need one.
Now listen, the BMs have been copping a bit of bad publicity over the World Touring Car Championship result, but there's no chance you're going to weigh in light.
No, no way. You can't help what someone does overseas, can you? Our cars are always spot on, and you never have to worry about that.
Well, as I just said to Trevor, Frank Gardner says that there's quite a bit of development left in these M3s yet, and that doesn't augur too well for the rest of the competition, because you guys have really got those cars wound up.
Yeah, they're going very well. They're a little bit slower here than what we thought they'd be.
Well, Jim set a lap record in the first heat.
Did he? Oh, well, they're not too bad then, are they?
Yeah. 53.7.
Yeah.
Which is pretty good.
Just after the way they went at Tasmania, we thought we would have been able to run in the twos, but I'm sure that'll come as the year progresses.
You won the series here last year.
Yeah.
You've got a bit of work cut out for you to win it again.
Yeah, that bloody Commodore's giving us a hard time, isn't it? I'll have to have a think about that.
All right, well, you keep on his tail. We better have a quick word to Jim Richards before we get away. Where are you, Jim?
Thank you.
Well, you used to be the winningest man at Amaroo, but somebody's jiggered the formula.
No, I think we had a little bit of misfortune today, but I'm sure that as the season goes by, we'll be at the front again.
You opened up with a win. What happened in the second heat?
We had a problem with an exhaust pipe and it collapsed and shut off the escape for the gases to the atmosphere, and of course it just stifled the engine and it wouldn't run.
The cars really do look potent, but of course they handle so well on this circuit, but there are bigger tracks to come yet for the successive rounds of the Australian Touring Car Championship. Will you be able to run with the V8s there?
Well, we thought our worst circuit would be Symonds Plains,
yeah,
and it's turned out to be our best so far.
Yeah.
So I hope that as we get onto the longer circuits, our cars will keep going better and better.
Let's hope so.
So
congratulations on a good effort today, Jim Richards. Okay, Trevor Ashby, the overall winner today. Tony Longhurst taking out the final heat and filling second place on the points, and Jim Richards in third place on points. And our thanks to Bruce Robinson, the divisional manager for James Hardie-Iplex, for his part in the presentation this afternoon. Hope you've enjoyed the program. It's just about over, but let's go to Mike Raymond to check our Motorsport Diary coming up.
Hey, thanks for watching, everybody. You made it to the end. Congratulations. And if you like this video, please hit the like button down below. And if you haven't subscribed, please do so. There was this little bit about the AMSCAR series from Wikipedia, which said the AMSCAR series for touring cars was created by Amaroo Parks Promoters, the Australian Racing Drivers Club, and staged annually from 1982 to 1993. Popular with spectators and easy for Sydney's Channel 7 to telecast, it became the backbone of the Sydney touring car scene, a scene which once consisted mostly of privateers who have largely disappeared since Amaroo closed, with the major touring car teams now operating from Melbourne and southeast Queensland. On many occasions, these events featured larger grid numbers than did the rounds of the national level Australian Touring Car Championship. This was mostly as the large number of Sydney privateers who usually filled the grid in the nationally televised by Channel 7 Bathurst 1000 rarely raced outside of New South Wales or Queensland due to budget limits. Anyway, I just thought I'd put that in at the end, and so until next time, see you later.